until I see what this guy can do. But yeah, so listen, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm grateful. I thank you.
Yeah,
Let's do this.
I'm excited to have this conversation. So first, what inspired your book, The Seven Secrets of Greatness?
Now, this is a good question because this book really, I think you teach this. It's basically my ideas that I was just putting down on paper. It was my life that I lived. It was basically patterns throughout my life that I started to recognize. I worked on Wall Street. I worked in education. I built up a real estate business. I sold a real estate. I took so much action in this physical reality that I started to see patterns. I didn't need somebody to teach me these patterns. I started to recognize them myself. I wish I would have seen these patterns many, many years ago, but I had to take a lot of bumps and bruises along the way. However, my life started to get a little strange. I had this injury. Now, I worked 16 hours a day for 20 years. I killed myself. I have every degree possible. I killed myself in these 3D systems like you wouldn't believe. And I had a ton of real estate. So my phone was ringing. I had so much going on. What wound up happening was I had a back surgery. And a couple of days after my back surgery, I broke up a fight in a high school. I was a dean. So I dealt with all discipline problems. So kids got in trouble, I helped them out. And I try to, steer kids in the right direction as far as discipline, whatever the case may be. Anyway, I really helped a lot of the athletes. So we had two football players that went at it. Now, when football players go at it, you got to stop it because these kids have scholarships on the line. These kids could lose a lot. So you really have to make sure they don't do anything stupid. If you're a coach in a high school, you'll understand what I mean. So two kids go at it, and I just had my back surgery. I leap into action, break up the fight. I destroyed my surgery. I couldn't walk for 6 months. I was paralyzed from the left leg down. And I was in emergency surgeries after that. It was a disastrous 2 years. I wound up leaving education because what wound up happening, that injury turned out to be one of the best things in my life. What it did was, for the first time in many, many years, it allowed me to just like relax, to sit down. I had time. And when I had time, I was able to read a book. Then I was able to meditate. And this is where things get strange. Now, I was like, oh, let me meditate. I don't know. I have time. Let me meditate. I meditate. And that's when things get real weird. It's like when we meditate, and you'll see this in my book, but when we meditate, it's like we bypass that reptilian brain. We bypass neurological programming that has been, affecting us since we were born. And what wound up happening was my food preference changed. My music preference changed. Everything in my life changed. I started to think differently. And then I started to see the problems that I had from a new perspective, a higher perspective. And I was able to solve problems. And then it was like I had to look in, why did I have this injury? I had to look for the purpose of this. I said, this is weird because why would I have this injury right now? What would be the reason? And I wound up discovering that reason. And it took me, 2 months of being like wanting to die, not wanting to be alive. It took me 2 months of that and another 6 months of getting together. But what wound up happening was I had free time and I had a real estate business. I'd owned properties, apartment buildings in and around New York City, places in Jersey, places in Staten Island. And what wound up happening was I had time to really, you know, move this over here, move that over there, to the point where I didn't really need to work anymore. So I was able to leave teaching. And again, it's because the injury. The injury allowed me to focus on real estate. So I start to see that, man, our nightmares seem to be blessings if we could just like stay in the right state of mind. And as soon as I had that attitude, then things started getting real weird. Things really started getting strange. I started to have ideas, inspirations. I started to think of things. I started to get these downloads. I started to get all kinds of messages, and I was led from one thing to the next to the next. And before you know it, I was like, what do I want to do with my life? Maybe I'll write a book or something like that. I don't know. I wanted to tell my story because my story got very, very strange. In 2000, in 2016, I saw this guy, Daryl Anka. If anybody knows Daryl Anka, he channels an entity you call Bashar. I am not the type of person to talk to channelers or to psych. I'm just not that type of person. When I first heard this guy, I laughed and said, this is the most foolish things I ever seen in my life. A guy channeling something? Come on. But silly me, I soon would learn that Socrates, all our philosophers, they channeled separate entities altogether. Socrates channeled a separate entity. What I seen Daryl do, and what he told me in private, and the things that came, he predicted 2019, 2020, 2021. He predicted things with the Florida Panthers, and he told me things. I can't even tell you what this guy did. Only I know what he did. So I seen what he could do, and I was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. So basically, I was able to learn from him directly under him. And he's seen miracles on his end from me. I seen miracles on my end from him, and it was just, I tried to help him out as much as possible. So I started writing this book, and this book is basically, it was helped out by him because he was telling me information, and the information he was telling me was like basically like telling me all about my life. And the way he was able to say it, I was not able to say it like that. But I was like, oh yeah, that's what I saw. He was able to say the things that he that were able to like reach into my soul and like say, like pull my soul out of me. He basically, when I first heard him speak and get into things, it was like, wow, I felt like, all right, I'm remembering this was meant to be. And so then I start writing this book with him. I start using some of his, they start giving me like, I work with April too, the CEO of Bashar Communications, who's great. They start giving me these messages, these channel messages, and I'm going over and these messages turn out to be the exact messages that I would need in my book. And whatever the case may be, to make a long story short, as I'm writing this book, friends of mine who I grew up with, they start reaching the highest heights of sports, the highest heights of business, the highest heights of sports executive, everything. They started to and I was like, oh my God, it's weird. It's like almost like if we take action towards something, like you teach. That's what attracts me to you, you to me, is the fact that you teach about this. When I started creating this book, all of a sudden the universe started to like mold itself, and people that I've helped out got into position where they could help me out. So all of a sudden, one of my friends helped me with my book. He's the CEO of the Florida Panthers right now. His team not only made the Stanley Cup last year, they might make it again this year. And it's just amazing. And that's not all. I had a student of mine. He was a kid in high school. He was a great kid. I like this kid. This kid was made of something different. I knew his story. His story is he came from war-torn Africa. From Africa, he came to America in like 2000. Anyway, he battled his way up, all the way from, from the school system. He had a lot against him. The bottom line is I kind of like looked out for him in high school. When he was ready to go take the SAT, I brought him to my mother-in-law. She was a tutor, and the kid was great. The kid was grateful. I just wanted the kid to get into any college. I didn't think he would do what he did. And what this kid did is he became one of the best running backs in the NFL. His name is Gus Edwards. And Gus Edwards has one of the greatest stories. And maybe I'll bring him on once and he'll tell you his story. But it's one of the greatest stories. But the bottom line is the kids I help start becoming the best athletes in the world. My old friends who were professional athletes, they started helping me out. I have a friend by the name of Jason Marquis. People may not have heard Jason's name before. Jason is one of the best athletes in the world. He's a couple of years older than me. And I feel like the universe puts certain people in our lives. I call these people in my book guides of greatness. And what these people do is they kind of show you what's possible. So this kid was born under the same socioeconomic status as me, which I had very little. He had little too. We didn't have much. So if it wasn't for him, I'd have many excuses. But what this kid did was, in high school, he got like a 1600 in the SAT. That was the highest you could get at this time. He was brilliant. In high school at this time, I was getting in trouble. at this time. Anyway, he wound up getting drafted in the major leagues. He was one of the best major league pitchers for like 15 years straight. All-star, pitched in the World Series. He pitched with Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz. I was able to learn so much from these people. I seen how these people were before they got to their positions and what it takes to get to those kind of levels. And so then, from my own personal experience of seeing what it takes to get to these levels, then I hear Bashar. And I'm like, ooh, Bashar gets it. He knows. How does Bashar know this? You know? So I know this because I take physical action and I have these people who I've seen do it. And I've only seen Daryl Anka be able to vocalize what it takes. So I made it a point to partner up with like a Bashar because he doesn't know I had that, but I seen kids go from nothing to great, and I seen how they did it. Then I seen the people, the teachers in this world who know how to do it, the Daryl Ankas, the Billy Carsons of the world. So I went and partnered up with them on projects, on things, and the bottom line is my life got crazy. I would basically read somebody's book and they would call that same minute. It was like that. I wound up finding a crystal, and it's in my book. And you know, I have the crystal right here. Actually, it's near and dear to my heart. But it was like 2018, Steve, and I found this crystal. I found it on the floor. But I was listening to a video, and they were talking about crystals. And then my shoelace came untied. I was in a park. I go down to bend my, tie my shoe, and here's the crystal. Now, who was the person I was listening to in 2018? It was Bashar. Who knew that 4 years later, I'd be writing a book with the same? So that's how this, now I would say, oh wow, I'm just lucky. That's not how it works. This reality has certain patterns that to navigate this reality is actually kind of simple. The structure of this reality is kind of complex, but navigating it has to be simple. So if you look at like the Fibonacci sequence, it's a very simple formula. And navigating this reality is a simple formula. Sorry, I got a little noise in the background. Shh, I'm on the phone. Sorry about that.
Oh, good. That's a part of this reality.
Yeah, that's it. But anyway, where was I going with this? Navigating this reality, the bottom line is, I've noticed 7 principles, 7 patterns, 7 what I call secrets that will get somebody from a certain point in their life to the most amazing life they could possibly imagine. And these 7 patterns are so simple. It's not, I'd like to tell you that these patterns are like a complex formula, calculus, this and that. It's not that. It's 1 + 1 = 2. That's how you navigate this reality. And you teach it a lot, and that's what brings, me to you, because you teach this. And the idea is, my first secret is miracles are the norm in life. They're not the exception. So as soon as I started to see miracles and believe in miracles and believe that this universe, there's some unseen force working behind the scenes, as soon as I began doing that, I started to see more of it. So the more you make yourself, the more you like show gratitude and notice the miracles, it's like the universe is like, oh, this guy notices me. Yes, let's give him more miracles. But then I look back and all the bad things that happened to me. I used to have anxiety when I was in like high school. And I was like, why did I have anxiety? Didn't make sense. I was so mad that I had that. It was terrible. But then I became a high school teacher in the same school I went to. And so many of my kids had anxiety. And I was helping them through that. So I see that a lot of things that happen to us is so perhaps we walk through darkness. So maybe we could show others the light. It looks like that's at play. And I started to see how this reality operates. My second secret is one of those patterns. And that is circumstance in life, they don't matter. It's our state of being that matters. What we believe, how we think, how we feel, and the actions we take, that creates our life. So when you feel good, good things happen. When you feel bad and you're negative and you see hate in the world and you're looking and the world's falling apart, you'll see a world that's falling apart. That's how this game works. It seems like we navigate this reality based on our beliefs and our thoughts. So we can manipulate reality by just controlling our thoughts. How do you control your thoughts? Well, when the negative thing comes in, I know to try to get rid of it as fast as I can. Because if I harp on that negative thing, I might bring that negative thing to life. So I kind of like, I recognize the negative thing. I'm like, no, I don't choose that. And I stick to the positive. I stick to the positive outcomes. And how do you know when your state of being is changed? How do you know when you're operating at the level that will bring you to your greatest life? And there is a secret to that. And you know by how you react to things. That's how you measure. How you react to things decides what your state of being is. So if I say, oh, I got a good state of being, and then all of a sudden I'm throwing things when something doesn't go my way, that's not it. Your reactions are everything. How you react. Is it you react neutrally to everything? Then you're going to be able to navigate this reality like no problem. And I know you do that. And again, that brings me to you. You're not flying off the handle, yelling at this one, yelling at, you know what I mean? You're just teaching people what to do. How to navigate this reality. You're teaching people how to create. Now, the creation aspect of my secrets comes at the end, because once you get the mindset down, once you understand that miracles are the norm, then all of a sudden you understand that your state of being now starts creating the reality you'll see in front of you. Then you have to make another mindset shift. So my secret number 3 is, in this book, is that the universe is always conspiring in our favor. Our nightmares are blessings in disguise. The worst things that ever happened to me, that injury that had me laid out for 2 years, I couldn't walk for 6 months. That injury was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because I was able to awaken from it. The powers that be, they created COVID. COVID this, COVID that. Are you kidding me? They created COVID. They caused this awakening like we've never seen before. So it's the universe is evolving towards perfection. That's how this universe works. It evolves towards perfection. You have any questions? Or, how do you see this universe? How do you see things? The nature of things, we'll call it.
Yeah, I'm with you, and you're verbalizing a lot of things that I've either like consciously verbalized or I've thought them, and you're putting words to things that I've thought and I've contemplated. And I totally agree with what you just said about how even the negative things individually and collectively are the biggest catalysts for our growth. If you choose to like reevaluate things, like this terrible thing happened, but it's actually making me or making the population think differently and seek alternative solutions. So that's a key point.
It seems like that. It seems like baked into this equation, we have what you would call, let's say, the deep state, or we have the powers that be. These Anunnaki type systems, these pyramidal structures where the power is condensed all the way up at the top. Now, I look at this as, I used to be like, oh my God, we got to fight back, we got to, get together. But then I started to realize, damn, if we had this world the way that all of us wanted it, we'd be sitting around watching the Kardashians because everything would be so easy. But no, things are difficult. So now we have to figure out creative ways to do this and creative ways to do that. We have to come together. So I see how this universe works. It's trying to fulfill the souls. So where you would have a mother that would sit around watching the Kardashians drinking red wine, now she's at school boards fighting for her son in education. So I see the beauty in everything. Now, once I started to see the beauty in everything, that's when the floodgates opened. That's when my life started to get a little easier and things started to come my way. That brings me to secret number 4, which is the power of momentum. It's like you said, you just got to get going. Get going. Whatever you want to do, you just got to start. It might be the worst thing, whether it's a podcast. It might be the worst podcast in the world for 2 years, whatever the case may be. It might be the worst book in the world. I might have the worst book in the world. People may read my book and laugh at me. But at least I got the ball rolling. You get the ball rolling, and it takes on a life of its own. You start being led. Now, there's a way, once you take action, like you say, when you want to create, you want to write a book, when you take a step in that direction, there's other things at play. They're called synchronicities. Synchronicities are the mathematical improbabilities that pop up. Now, my background's in statistics and finance, and I could tell you that there were certain probabilities that were going on in my life that was just impossible. I'm into probabilities and statistics, and I'm like, how could that be? How could you think of somebody's name and then they call? Then you say a word, and all of a sudden say that word is said on the radio. Then you bend down at your shoe and you find a crystal. And then all of a sudden, once I started to see how this now, if you were to get into a secret society and you were to battle your way all the way up to the top of these secret societies, at the top they do rituals. They do all these things. Now these rituals, I came to know, and this is, if you were to be a high level Mason, you'd find out that these rituals, they're just permission slips. What they are is just manipulating your beliefs so you think so powerfully that by sacrificing this, by doing that, that you deserve a certain thing. And then that thing comes to life and you believe it's, of course, the ritual. But no, all we have to do is believe it. And that when you work for something, when you believe you deserve something, that's when you get that. And if you didn't get that, you weren't supposed to get that. Not because you're being denied, it's because something better is always there. I think our lives are always evolving towards greatness. And when we follow the synchronicities along the way, that's what I was doing. I picked up the phone. I was reading Billy Carson's book. I was reading. I was like, let me read it because I knew I was going to talk to him. I don't know when, but I was going to talk to him. I was like, let me read it. I don't want to not read it and then talk to him and be like, As I was reading the book, he calls my phone. So it was things of that nature. I was like, holy sh. So it was getting crazy like that in my life. And I said, is it just me as this happened to? But you know that it happened to you. This is called a holographic reality. So my secrets, everyone will be able to find these secrets in their life. They'll be able to find, all right, I see this is how this reality works. Once you understand how this reality works, you can almost take a step back. You stop living in fear. Now, fear is how we are programmed. If we were leaders, maybe we would do the same. All right, you want to keep people programmed? You keep them in fear. Because fear, they're not in the creation mode. That's why you're so important in this world. You teach people to get into that creative state. Don't worry about that. Now, I call that going straight for the king in my book. In life, no matter, I call it going straight for the king because I love Alexander the Great. I love, Greek history, Roman history, even Cyrus the Great. I've studied all that. I read every book possible you could think of. And Alexander the Great in 330, he was up against the fort. It was 50,000 allied Greek soldiers and Alexander the Great's Macedonian. So it's 50,000 soldiers. He went against an army of 250,000 soldiers. He couldn't win. He knew that there'd be elephants bearing down on him, chariots bearing down on his army. His whole army didn't want to fight. They're like, what's this guy doing? But Alexander the Great knew he didn't have to kill 250,000 soldiers. That's not how the Persian army operated. All he had to do was go straight for the king. Go after King Darius with his horse, run right into him and just kill him, just get him. Because if they get him, the war's over. So in life, you got to create. You got to go straight for the king. There's shit going on in your life. You got this going on. You got that bill to pay. You got this stress. You got that stress. You got to try to block that out and go straight for what you want and straight for the creation. And when you get into the creative state, it's almost like you're led. And if you are on the right path, you're led. That's called synchronicity and coincidence. You're led by this. I always thought they were just random occurrences, but no, synchronicities are what guides us. And this is what Bashar teaches also. What I'm telling you, a lot of this information I got from Bashar. So not only did I see the greatest people on our planet right now master their reality, but I also found the greatest teachers. And I combined them together into this book. And from this book, it's just, I started meeting new people and new business ventures. And it's just great. And every single dollar I make from this book, I'm giving away. So all the profits will be given away. And I refuse to make $1 from any of this. I'm just having fun right now. That's all.
That's
And
great. That's going to actually contribute to the success of the book and make it more magnetic because there's that component when you're desperate, especially when it comes to money. When you're desperate for money, it runs away from you. And when you don't need it, it becomes that much more magnetic. I've had to learn that the hard way so many times over.
that's actually beautiful the way you said that. And I have that in the book. Many of the things you're saying, it's in my book because you get it, you feel it. When you're in the vibration and the mindset of not having, you don't have. When you're praying for things, you're saying you don't have them. When you want money, like you said, it deflects. It's because the nature, our reality doesn't work like this. There's another hack. The hack is by giving. By giving to others, you tell the universe that you have. And when you tell the universe you have more. So I started to see that by giving, by helping, by just doing things for people, by putting other people above myself. Then, I was being helped out. So it's almost like, and listen, by doing stupid things, I was hurt. I had some, whenever I did something stupid, like I'll tell you, so when I was 15 years old, I ditched a cab. It was like $8 cab. But I never had money on me at those times. So I remember I was with my friend. He was a little overweight. Yeah, actually, he was really overweight. I just wanted to see my friend run. And, I was pretty fast at this time. So I just wanted to see him run. And we get in the back of the car. And it was like a young guy driving too. And I was like, oh man. My friend looked at me. He's like, please, please, please don't run at him. Please don't. And he sees me start lacing up my shoes because I'm going to ditch the cab right here. My friend's like, he starts lacing up his shoes and he doesn't look at me the whole trip home because he knows I'm ditching the cab here. All right, so the guy pulls up, he lets us out. I run. I take off because I want to see my friend run because it's funny seeing him jump over fences, this and that. He runs, he stumbles, gets over one fence. I'm dying laughing the whole time. I jump over a fence that was like a 20-foot fall, dislocate my shoulder. My shoulder hurts still to this day. My shoulder hurts. So for some reason, anytime I ever did something stupid, I luckily paid for it right then and there. Some would call that dharma, right? Dharma? Is that called? It's
Karma.
basically,
Karma's the cause and effect. Dharma's the purpose.
yeah, so whatever the case may be, if I did something stupid, I'd pay for it. But if I helped people and did things right, so I was blessed that way, where I started to see, all right, there's something else at play here. What's the odds of me dislocating my shoulder? My shoulder was like this. It was like terrible. I really needed surgery, whatever the case may be. It hurts to this second. So that one $8 cab, I dealt with that my whole life. But it was noticing the nature of this reality that helped me figure this nature of this reality out. And I see things in certain people. Like I worked on Wall Street, and this guy I worked for was my manager, and he was a millionaire. He might have been a millionaire at the time. Maybe he made a $500,000 a year, whatever the case may be. Now this guy, when Stephen, when he spoke, he had a whole boardroom, all of us, because we were broke. I was in finance. When he would speak, we would all go nuts, like we won a championship. That's how good of a communicator this guy was. I couldn't believe this guy. I was like, man, this guy's the best. I thought all of Wall Street was like that. So this guy got so much out of me on Wall Street. He turned me into one of the best salesmen on Wall Street. But I got so cocky, I went out on my own. And I wound up getting beat up and, got killed, lost money, this and that, whatever the case may be. But that guy, I knew something was different about him. That guy became a billionaire recently. And I knew it. I started to see things in people. All through my life, I started to see things in certain people. That's why I see things in you, because I know. I see it. When I see things in people, I see what you have to offer. And what you have to offer is something that's going to change the world. Showing people how to create, helping people write. And you know what? Even though we weren't speaking about it, when I was writing my book, it almost felt like you were there. It was like I had companions that were also writing and in the same mindset. So it's great. It's like we have a little community going. And that's what this is all about. See, social media and the information age is a very interesting time because in 1 month, any one of us could learn so more in 1 month. Any one of us. Even a homeless person on the street with a phone. Any one of us can learn in a month, which would take a king of old an entire lifetime to learn. Now, multiply that by the fact that we could share ideas now and information and the reality of things. And we could really start figuring out what this reality is about. And that's why I think we're seeing all this political strife. That's why we're seeing all these psyops. They can't have us do this. They can't have us learn the nature of things. Because once you learn the nature of things, you turn very powerful. You manipulate your reality in a certain way where you cannot be controlled no more. And if you can't be controlled anymore, then you become your own creator, your own master of this matrix. And that's what it's all about. And really, this my 7 secrets are how you do that. It's basically holographic, you know, you're going to call them patterns and principles that when applied, your reality starts manipulating. You start manipulating your reality like a Jedi Knight. I call it the Force. Because once you know these 7 secrets, these 7 principles, it's like you have a certain force. And I like to say that, maybe I'm just making this up and this and that, but my best friend right now is on his way to another Stanley Cup, and he is awakened to this. His players are awakened, that organization is awakened to this. My friend is an awakened soul, so it's amazing to see this. And I'm going on a tangent here, but you understand, right?
Yeah,
Am
I
I
get
making
it
sense?
all. I love it. Let's continue with the secrets. That was 4, I think. The one
Yeah,
about
so now we're on
synchronicities.
5. So now again, once you get the mindset down, you start seeing the world from a certain point of view. Like, oh wow, all right, I understand how this reality works. It's always working in my best interest, even if it doesn't look like it. Some people have a girlfriend, they break up with them, they're heartbroken, and then they meet the love of their lives shortly after. So everything, even somebody gets fired from a job and then they go write books and they have the best career and the best life and they say, wow, thank God I was fired. So our nightmares are blessings if we could stay in the right frame of mind. And how do we know we're in the right state of mind? I'm just reviewing here our reactions to things. How do we react? If we react terribly to something, then we really didn't change our state of being. So once you get the mindset down, then it's momentum, all right? The power of momentum. You take action. 15 minutes a day, that's all it takes. You want to write? 15 minutes a day. You may start writing. People may start writing a book, spend 15 minutes writing a book, and all of a sudden they'll be like, oh wow, that would be a good song, And all of a sudden that book turns into a song and they were led. So, and there's a way to take action. There's a way, and I'll tell you a little bit later how you do it. But, all right, where are we? Number 5? Number 5 is gratefulness. Gratitude is the vibration of greatness. So gratefulness is the vibration of greatness. That's number 5. So secret number 5 is when you're grateful for what you have, it's almost like the universe is like, ooh, just like the miracles. It's like the universe is like, oh my God, he's grateful. Let's give him more to be grateful for. It's like when we're grateful for things, then all of a sudden the universe gives us more to be grateful for. And I see the difference between somebody who's homeless and somebody who masters this reality is gratefulness plays a very big role. I work with homeless people and I kind of see their mentality. A lot of their mentality is they just, they're not grateful. They're whatever the case may be. But the bottom line is gratefulness is also a way to manipulate this reality. Because when you're grateful for what you have, it's like this universe gives you more to be grateful for. When your words, your deeds, your actions are good, it's like you honor this creation. And when you start honoring this creation honors you. And when you help people, when you give without wanting in return, that's when it's like, who knows? Let's say we all had guardian angels. And let's say I was to help people out and you were to help people out. You'll have other people's guardian angels perhaps helping your life. And it's almost like, that's where a person really starts reaching these unbelievable levels. They seem like they're being helped by something else because they can help so many other people. Perhaps other people's guardian angels, let's say, help them, get them to a certain spot so that they can help others. So it's all about helping and sharing and giving. And I think we're going into a new world like that, where we're all going to be a little more caring and like take a step back and say, how can we help each other? How can I help you? I don't want to take from you. What can I give to you that will help you? Because I know if I help you, you have certain energies and vibrations that'll help me. That's how this works. So gratefulness, when we're grateful for what we have, we're given more to be grateful for. Now, we all think that the end all be all is money. However, if I was to tell you, Stephen, would you sell your eyesight for $1 billion? Would you do it?
Nope.
You probably wouldn't. So that must mean you're a billionaire. And when you think about it, the things that matter, we've been programmed to think that other things matter, when none of this shit matters. What matters is that you have two eyes to see, two ears to hear. You have hands, you could be grateful for anything. We wake up every morning and there's this orange ball in the sky, but no, we're depressed. But that orange ball in the sky is always there. No matter what, that orange ball in the sky is always, so we can be grateful for things of that nature. And this reality is so beautiful that as I started to awaken, all of a sudden I started to become a new person. And then when I looked at my past, experiences that were meaningless turned out to be the most meaningful experiences in my life. So it's almost like my life was changing as I was changing. Then I looked in the past, I had so many, I lived a whole different life. And then I started to feel fulfilled. Fulfillment is true happiness to me. Fulfillment is wisdom, knowing that you kind of are the creator of your own reality. And and it's still bad things happen to me now, like anybody. But you know what? Those bad things now they turn around pretty quick. It's almost like the universe tests me. All right, let's see if your state of being is good. And if it is, I'm blessed. And now I have opportunities coming my way, this coming my way, that. And not because I want to make money or anything like that. It's just listen, I don't need it. If my book helps people, that's great. But my book is just in case I have to reincarnate here again. I now have a blueprint, so I don't have to go through all this. And I chose a cover that I really like too, that would attract me to it. But if it helps people, that's fine too. But really, if this is the nature of how our reality works. How do you agree?
Yeah, I love that lens of just in case I have to reincarnate again. That's like my clues, and having that frame or lens of writing it that way. That's hilarious, and I agree with that. I love that.
Yeah, I think we all have to write. I think everybody has to write their own book on how they see things,
Yeah.
because we all have this unique perspective. Nobody's quite like you. Nobody's
Mhm.
quite like me. So we've been told that you need to have certain degrees and you need to have a PhD, or MBA, whatever the case may be, and that's how you master this reality. No, everybody is a master of this reality. Just because your unique perspective is so unique. I didn't learn anything in college. And I have two master's degrees, finance degrees, economics degrees. I didn't learn anything in college. Anything, 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 anything. Anything I could apply in real life, believe it or not, I did not learn in college. There were some interesting subjects, this and that. But so the bottom line is, we've been told that certain people are leaders, are scientists, trust the science. But every single person to me is a freaking God that has a unique perspective unlike mine. And when somebody talks, I listen. I don't care if they're a Fortune 500 CEO or a homeless person. I listen because every single person is like a God to me, because they have something I don't have. And every single person seems to have their own piece of this puzzle. And once you start bringing the pieces of the puzzle together, you start figuring out how this world works. Now imagine if this entire world started to realize that you can manipulate reality through your mind, through creating. What kind of world would we have? We would turn this world around overnight. But we don't have that yet. We have people battling, and that's fine. Everyone will wake up on their own time. But my book and my perspective, just like you, we watch people on social media running left and right, and we kind of be that balance point. It's like protons and electrons chasing each other, and we be the neutron, that balance point. Like, all right, listen, things have to be like this, And I look at life, I look at this reality like it's a chessboard. So any move that's made by the powers that be allows me to make a counter move, whether it's a financial counter move. They raise interest rates. All right, they raise interest rates. Guess what? I buy a 30-year bond that's yielding 6-7%, and now I get paid 7% for the rest of my life. They crash real estate, they crash interest rates. All right, real estate goes through the moon. I sell off a bunch of real estate, So There's a financial way to play this game. There's a spiritual way to play this game. There's a physical way to play this game. And when we're tapped in, we're playing all these things at this, at a great level. And let me just go to number six. So number six is once we start getting the momentum, once we get the mindset, secret number six is the journey is the destination. The path is the process. Wisdom is like the gift, and the experience itself is like the purpose. It's almost like if God was able to capture time and to experience his own creation, how would he experience it? He would probably cut himself up to as many people as possible, send them out to just, experience this world. And it's just the journey itself, understanding that, wow, there's a lot of magic going on in each and every one of our lives. The idea is to try to find that magic. Once you start looking for it, you start finding it. That's a holographic reality. Basically, that's everybody's reality. From all the ancients, from all the philosophers, they understood this. They understood that aspect. When you look, seek, and ye shall find. So when you look for things, you find them. That's how this reality works too. If you look for hate, you'll find hate. If you look for racism, you'll find it. If you look for the end of the world, you'll see the end of the world. But if you notice that there's all beauty in this world, and you just got to block that stuff out for now. It doesn't mean there has to be negative things that go on. If there wasn't, we'd all be sitting around a campfire singing Kumbaya 24/7. So the negative things, like we said before, offer an opportunity to think differently, to take physical action. This is the reality of physical action. So the more physical action we take in this reality, the more, we can be led by synchronicity. And the more giving we are, and the more grateful we are, the more the universe will help us. And it's beautiful. And I see the magic in everything. And what made you become a writer?
It's just something that I had to do. It was like such a calling that I was led to. So I kind of started it. I did it a little bit as a kid, but I really started it once. I almost died when I was 19. Drank too much alcohol one night, ended up in the hospital, almost died. So I started like reflecting on my life after that. And I started journaling like about the deep questions in life, like why am I here? What is this reality? Is God real? Like those kind of things. So just that journaling for a little bit every day, that would lead me to new insights. That would have me writing poetry. That got me interested in even reading and writing about what I was reading. And it just like snowballed after that. And like one thing led to another. Like you said, I started following that inspiration and the synchronicities. So that's how I got into that.
When I talk to everybody who's gone on to do great things, it's the same similar story. Maybe something bad happened, they got knocked off course, and that course that they got knocked off of was the course they needed to be knocked off of, because then they got put on the right course. And it was that negative thing that happened that put you on the right course. And then, like you said, and this is again, when you talk about creativity, that's a brainwave state. That's like they call it like a heart brain coherent state, a slower brainwave state. Once we get into that state, it's actually a channeling state. Then ideas and inspirations come through, and then we're led. And all of a sudden, the more you write, then it's like maybe we have higher aspects of us, like, oh wow, Steven's following his excitement. Yes, let's all help him. He's not living a boring life anymore. Adam's living an exciting life. Let's help him. Who knows? Maybe we have other aspects that are like, oh wow, he's living it. We got a good one here. Let's help this one. And then propels you to higher levels of performance.
Yeah. And
And
is
it's
that
beautiful. I
how
love you.
is that how you like choose your actions, or do you have like even more mental logical frameworks that you use to make sure you're taking like the highest ROI actions or the most potent actions?
Well, there's secret number seven is what actions do we take? What do we do?
Mhm.
No, everyone's always saying, follow your passion, follow. But really, there's a formula, a specific, this is Bashar's formula. It's a specific formula that when applied you master your reality almost like right away. And it's just such a simple, again, I'd like to say it's calculus. I like to say it's the standard deviation formula, but it's not. It's a very simple formula. It's a 5-step formula. I usually let him tell it if you wanted to research it, but I'll just get into it quick. It's basically you follow your excitement from one moment to the next. Your excitement is the most exciting thing you could do at this moment. And it doesn't have to be a project. It could be like reading a book. It could be like, I don't know, taking a walk outside. Because when you read a book, you might read something that sparks an idea. When you take a walk, because that's the most exciting thing you could do at that moment, you might get some inspiration. You never know who you're going to meet when you go outside. And I'll give you an example. I got into real estate, and how I really got into real estate was like, in the mid 2000s. I basically went to this Robert Kiyosaki. He had this. It was like he wasn't even that big at that time. Actually, he was kind of big. He came out with his books, but whatever. I went to the seminar of Robert Kiyosaki. That was an exciting thing. At first, I wasn't going to go, but then I was like, that's exciting. Let me go. So I go to this Robert Kiyosaki, seminar. And I get there late. I just barely, there's one seat left. I sit in the seat. I sit next to this kid, this guy a couple years older than me. He wound up owning properties, multifamily properties in apartment buildings in and around New York City. Wouldn't you know that this guy became my mentor? He told me how he did it, how he bought real estate, what he did, and I followed his guidance. And I was able to build what you would call a real estate empire. An 8-figure portfolio of real estate, which at the time my phone was ringing like crazy. I was really heavily immersed in the 3D, but by follow it was exciting, and it allowed me to never have to work again for the rest of my life, which is one of the most important. When you get the financial independence in this, and it's a tough word, financial independence, because at any second you could be financially dependent. But when you get to a certain level of financial independence, that was my step. I followed my excitement. I went to that Robert Kiyosaki seminar, and there was one seat left. That's a synchronicity. I sat next to somebody who changed my life, and it's like, wow. So I unknowingly applied Bashar's formula, and by doing it, his formula is number one, follow your passion and follow your excitement. That's number one. And again, it doesn't have to be a project. It could just be anything. Because that's how this reality works. You have to follow your excitement, not your pleasure, short-term pleasure, your excitement. And after you follow your excitement, you got to do it and take it as far as you could take it till you can't take it any further. So I'm going to give you an example from my book. I have a friend of mine. His name is Brian Esposito. Great kid. Great kid. He wound up, getting drafted in the major leagues, playing in the major leagues. And he followed his excitement. He took it as far as he could take it. He had a few injuries, but he didn't stop there. What he wound up doing was becoming a coach. He coached in the minor leagues, but now he's the San Diego Padres bench coach, and he will be, I know, just because my life, I see all these people master life, he will become, a major league coach for San Diego in the next few years, I bet. You're going to see him and we'll talk about this. And when he does do that, we'll talk about the day, so he followed his excitement and he took it as far as he could take it until he can't take it any further. So step 2 is take it as far as you could take it. Your excitement, I always thought, I played basketball. Basketball, I was like, if you didn't make it to the NBA, you're a failure. But the reality is, you could train people in basketball. You could be a coach. You could, there's so many different ways. Your excitement doesn't have to look a certain way. And that's step 3 of the formula. Don't have any intentions, follow your excitement, do it because you love to do it, and just don't have any intent. You could set goals, you could do this, but just when you follow your excitement, you got to leave a little open door for something better to come. I love basketball. From basketball, my teams did very well. When I was in high school, we were like one of the best teams in New York City, which is rare. I was one of the best shooters in New York State. I led my borough in 3-pointers. I led New York City in 3-pointers. So I was actually a shooter at this point, and basketball was my excitement. Now, my last year of school, I barely went to school. I just played basketball. I had bad grades, whatever. So I wound up going to community college. But what that basketball did was, a few years later, the teachers remembered me. The principal remembered me, and they wanted me to come back as a teacher. So my excitement in basketball It led to me working back at the school, being a coach. So I was always thought I was a failure, but then when I was coaching students, I thought it was the most beautiful thing. It was like, wow, it's like this universe is really work. You know, you follow your excitement. Your excitement might not lead to where you think it's going to lead. It might lead you to your true path. And my path was education and teaching. And if it wasn't for basketball, I wouldn't have been a teacher. If it wasn't for coaching, so that's how this reality works too. So you take action on your excitement, on your passion. I'm not saying to quit your day job, but 15 minutes a day on your passion. And all of a sudden, you might find something. You might start being led. And then you don't have any intentions. So you don't get yourself in that negative state of being. It's not like, oh, I better be here. If I'm not here, I'm a failure. No, it's, listen, let's just do it because I know I'm being led. I trust in this universe. That's faith, trusting in this whole entire plan. Because once I started to do that, then it goes to the fourth step of the formula. And the fourth and fifth step is like basically stay positive the entire time. Something bad happens, stay positive. It had to happen like that. Maybe there was a lesson to learn. A lot of the things we think are bad are the greatest thing that could happen. I lost a lot of money throughout my life, many times. Thank God I lost money because if I would have made money, like when I was like 28, 29, I was like on the verge of really making big money. Then I lost a lot. I got actually had a fire in the house. I had so many bad things happen. But I thank God that happened because I was immature at that time. And if I didn't lose that money, who knows? I'd be like the lottery winners. If you get all money when you're not mature enough to handle it, you fly off the deep end. So this universe is evolving towards perfection, and each one of us are evolving towards perfection. There's just a mental, state you got to be into to capture this. And like riding on a wave, once you capture the secrets of this reality, you could ride them, you know, to wherever you want to ride them, to greatness, to a great life. And I mean, I don't even know what a great. All I see is magic around me. And that's why it brings me to you, because it's you that's the magic. And that's pretty much it. So we could go into it, we could talk about this for days. But it's just beautiful coming together, sharing ideas, and that's what this is all about.
Yeah. And that was like a master class.
Yeah, something like that, right? Well, that's what this is about. As we go forward, we put together master classes and do this and do that and just try things out and have fun with it. I'm really meeting such good people just by writing a book and talking with people and learning from you guys. Oh my God, I don't care about teaching or anything. I just like learning. So I learned from you guys. It's just beautiful. It's like this book is a doorway that could open me up to like the greatest lessons in the world. I don't want the powers that be following me. You know what I mean? So I try to stay under the radar. But I don't know.
Yeah, just it's like you said about following those synchronicities and letting go, not clinging to how things should be and not fearing and letting things just happen and roll off of you and just keep going that way.
That's what Bashar, I learned so much from him, which was great because he put things into words that I kind of knew, but I needed to hear it. It gave me that, like, all right, when somebody said it, I was like, ooh. Now I look at this reality. I don't know if there is really a past. I don't even know if there really is. I think this is more of like a simulation. In a simulation, you really have, don't, everything in the past is a symbol that could be a lesson that awakens something within you. So even like Jesus or religion or anything, if you look back at Jesus and you start researching him, that may awaken something in you. When I started to research Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar, that awoken something in me that I was like, oh my God. So the past could be in a simulation, you'd have a past that you created. And that past, you have symbols everywhere. And when you find those symbols, they awaken things in you. And you really could master this reality in the now moment. So I just find it all beautiful. And we could all do this together.
Yeah, that's so true. And I love that perspective. And it's awesome that so much of what you say and so much of how you're living, it involves being of service to others, seeking where you can help people, being in a state of gratitude, seeing beauty everywhere, like seeing God in everyone, like those are so key for development and evolution in all aspects of life. And I'm taking notes on that because I'm not perfect. Like I have some aspects of life or sometimes where I react in ways like maybe withdrawing myself or something like that. And it shows me I have room to grow with certain things. So I'm becoming more and more aware of that. Uh, I think let's wrap this up here. So first, any parting words, and also where can people find you and find your book when it comes out, all that stuff. Where do you want to point people?
Yeah, I have a homepage that, you know what, I'll send it to your link. I'll send it to your email.
Yep.
It's my homepage for my book. If anybody wanted to, go email me, give me their email address, I'll get them a discounted book. And that's pretty much it. So I have a homepage, but I don't even have a website. I don't have anything. I don't have nothing. I barely have social media. I just have one little account on social media. I really have the bare minimum. But I'll give you the homepage to get the book when it's out. I think the book will really help people because the people who helped out on this book are now they were almost in the Super Bowl. They're in the NHL. They just it's the most amazing story. So I think it'll help people. I hope it helps people. Let them see the holographic nature of this reality. And then, and we all work together. And you have clues that I need. I have clues that you need. This is a simulation. So there are no mistakes. We were supposed to meet each other. That's my
Exactly.
point.
Yeah. And I'll put that link in the description of wherever this video goes. It'll be there. So thanks for coming on, Adam. I don't even know what the name of this podcast is yet or where this will go. I'm just following my excitement with this. And yeah, I want to get more people like you and maybe you on again. So thank you so much.
I'm always here for you, Stephen. Thanks, man. I enjoy you and I really appreciate you. Thanks, brother.